The black students, the Black Action Movement, aligned themselves with progressive white students and professors and faculty and said that our mothers and fathers work in these factories and were responsible for the wealth of this nation, and you're telling me that these institutions are off limit to us, the people who contribute to this society the most, who have been forced. This society is a society built on slave labor of black people, and that is the real reality of this situation. This is a question of not who's qualified and who's not. This is the question are people going to be given the opportunity that we deserve? And the question of integration, that's why those black students made the fight to open that campus up. They said, because we deserve to be here. Detroit is just an hour away from the University of Michigan. You're telling me we don't deserve to be here? Our parents work in those factories day in, day out, make sure that this society is wealthy, and you're telling me this institution is not mine? That's a ridiculous notion. And that's the basis on which affirmative action was formed. And that's our problem, is that these are modest programs. That black students make up 6% of the college-age population at the University of Michigan, but we're 20% of the college-age population throughout the state of Michigan. They're too modest. We need more.
If I may just reiterate the second part of my question, and you eloquently stated your opinion in regards to the first. By chance, if this is voted down, yeah. I think it's going to be important for minorities to come to a consensus in regards to alternatives to foster or continue to foster a productive minority environment and culture. Are there any alternatives that you can think of, or any individual on this panel can think of, to affirmative action that would foster a greater amount of self-sufficiency in the minority community?
I want to redirect that to Mr. Glazier or Mr. Yam, if you don't mind. Mr.
Well, I would say Bill Cosby had a lot of very good ideas last year. So is Ward Connerly, emphasizing personal responsibility, study, hard work, and the values that anybody of any race has to instill in children. Government can't take the place of those values, can't take the place of family. And all of that nurture. And there are consequences when families break down, no matter what race or background people are from. And it's inescapable that those things happen. To discriminate against people who have made those sacrifices and are prepared for college and whatever else is involved in that, doesn't make any sense anymore.
I sense that there's a rebuttal on the other side of the table.
Yeah, and I'd like to say, because again, we were co-defendants inside the law school case. What we presented was that, what is merit? Because, okay, the argument against affirmative action is that unqualified minority students get in and take the position of qualified white students. And it is a true fact that on average, black and other minority students have lower GPAs and lower test scores than their white counterparts. Knowing that fact, you can conclude two things. Either black and other minority people are inferior, or there's something wrong with these standards that colleges and universities use. And our point in the case is that the standards that colleges and universities use reflect and measure the racist and sexist inequality that exists in American society. And here's the point. In California, after affirmative action was banned, there were 800 black, Latino, and Native American students who were denied admissions, who had a 4.0 GPA and 1,200 on the SAT. Now, why is that? They're qualified, right? Well, after the ban on affirmative action, the cap was lifted off the GPA. The average GPA for UCLA is a 4.2. Well, how do you get a 4.2 or a 4.5 or even a 5.0? Well, you have to go to a school that offers it. And I went to McKinsey in Detroit, and I can tell you that in my whole 4 years of being there, I have not even seen an AP class nowhere. And for the most part, majority black and Latino schools don't have maybe 5, maybe 6, but not enough. This is not a question, because if it is a question of whether or not black and other minorities are qualified, then, you know, like, then there's an even deeper question that you have to deal with. But the fact is, if you accept that we are just as qualified, just as talented, and just as smart, then you have to ask the question, okay, why are these GPAs and test scores coming out the way that they are? What are they measuring? And they measure nothing but the inequality of American society. Nothing else but that. And the white privilege that exists in American society, because working class white students do better on standardized tests than middle upper class black students. And that's because the test, as everything in American society, is shaped towards white people, and in particular white men. And no one refutes that. Everyone knows that's reality. We can talk about from Katrina on down, like we know what the reality is, but the question is, are we gonna fix it?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We got to keep it moving. We're gonna go back to the media panel for a question, and then we're going to go through the media panel again, sort of rapid fire, and then out to comments and questions from the community at large. So keep the questions short, we're going to keep the responses short, and we're going to keep it moving along. Mr. Katabi.
All right. My name is Chama Katabi. I'm a student at Calvin College. My question is actually directed toward Mr. Tristan. Just kind of following up on what you were just saying. So you're pointing out that some of the issues of getting into the college are based on some of the social and economic difficulties that are found in minority communities. So what would you say to proponents of the MCRI who say that that the issue then is to address those issues of poor education and poor housing and just these issues of poverty that are within these communities rather than preferential treatment?
And I'll just say this, while there is no phenomenon of driving while poor, there is a phenomenon of driving while black and also driving while Arab. And so that says that racism is a social phenomenon all of its own. And okay, you have to ask the question, but which schools are the poor schools? The white schools or the black schools? Is it a coincidence that the majority black and Latino schools are the one that get less funding and resources throughout the state in this nation? Or is it just happenstance that it just happened to happen like that? American history doesn't happen in coincidences. And you know, the funny part about it is they say this thing about socioeconomic status. When the University of Michigan undergraduate point system was taken off, not only did it take off race, but it also took off socioeconomic status, which gave white students 20 points equal of what black students got, like if they came from, you know, poor like state. You also got 17 points for being from the UP. The average, income of students who go to the University of California, Berkeley, has rose up to $100,000. This isn't a question about class. They're not interested in working class white students. They're interested in keeping these institutions just strictly for the elite male white upper class of this nation, because those who are going to the colleges in California.
Thank you. Rapid fire. We're back to Mr. Katabi.
Oh, well, I just wanted to respond, just a follow-up question. So then, I mean, so is the solution then giving these students preferential treatment, or is it like to address this issue? Is it to attack these social ills?
But you have to do both, because they're not separate from each other. Because again, this is not, affirmative action programs are not handouts. They are programs of struggle. These are programs that have forced this society to recognize the inequality that exists in this society. Point to be made. If you have a 3.0 from schools in Detroit, it means different and more than a 3.0 at a majority white school, because that comes with a whole set of obstacles and disadvantages. And okay, that means that you're prepared to take on what life has to offer. Unfortunately, you had to deal with that more than what those white students had to deal with. And that what the alternative